Welcome to the Anton Stentner podcast. And today, Anton, you've got to answer the question, why are you selling all of your real estate because of Trump?
Wow. So, honestly, this is something I've been thinking a lot about. This is what we're seeing right now is unprecedented. I think the average consumer doesn't understand it. The average real estate investor doesn't understand it. When Trump won in a landslide victory, when he won the Senate, won the House, that was the start of a massive change in strategy. And we started immediately going, how is this going to hurt us? How is it going to help us? What should we be doing? And where do we need to be going to? And so we kind of started looking at this almost like his presidency. What's our 4-year strategy? And during this process for a 4-year strategy, how do we maximize our returns while minimizing our risk, and then fundamentally shifting what we're doing and pivoting it? And so turning it into now, and then what's going to generate cash, and then what's next on the horizon.
One of the things that's interesting about this discussion is, we record this podcast every single week. You're looking at the data. That's a normal thing you do as a realtor, working with investors, being an investor yourself. So you've always been able to forecast 3 to 6 months out. You make adjustments, but you kind of know where things are going to go. We look at interest rates, we look at the economy, and then you literally just look at the market data. But this Trump win has seemed to me kind of change your strategy altogether.
Yes.
And what specifically is making you sell, and what exactly are you selling?
It's caused a pivot because, and we'll get into, what he's doing, but essentially selling the properties out of state and bringing the money home. Why? Out of state is going to underperform. The Seattle Metro is going to overperform. Looking at our inventory of land that we have right now and going, you know what? I don't need to hold this forever. Let's sell some now to generate cash. Let's sell some of these projects to generate cash to get ready because of the thesis we talked about the other day. Whoever was coming in, because the economy was already not moving in the right direction, we have to go through short-term pain. Didn't matter if it was Harris or Trump. Unemployment rising. Job growth slowing down. GDP, they say it's okay, but it's mostly government, so slowing down. And we're still spending like a bunch of drunken sailors. So we've got some pain in front of us, but we also have some long-term gains. So we're repositioning today to be ready for that long-term gain. So we're making some today, now sacrifices to plant the seeds for the tomorrow, for the 6 months, the 1 year, the 4 years from today.
Yeah, and one thing I know for sure is, you already mentioned, the Landside Win was unexpected. And we kind of probably knew, because he's pro-business, that things would get better. No one would have been able to see the improvement now happening at such a high level. Bitcoin record highs, right? Stock markets hitting new highs like every other day. And even just the market reacting, generally speaking, sentiment-wise, causing probably, especially considering he's not even in office yet,
Bingo.
that there's this huge boom in confidence, which we know for sure, whenever there's confidence, it's always kind of like a double-edged sword for real estate. That means more people might be getting in or might, drum up some activity. But also that means that prices, I'm actually kind of curious if prices have been going up since then. I mean, it's only been a week, I guess, right?
Yeah. So there's not really a way to measure prices over a week. Here's what I can tell you. Anecdotally, more phone calls, more buyers getting pre-approved. We're selling more of our listings. We have more demand for our land development project and for our investments. So the activity is picking up. Why? Confidence. Why? We have a known quantity. Number 3, the known quantity is extremely pro-real estate. So we expect deregulation. We expect lower taxes, and all of that benefits real estate. But we expect some short-term pain with interest rates. And as the Fed continues to cut and the bond market gets under control, we expect long-term gains. So the question that I want you to be thinking about as our listener is, where are my investments today? Where are my risks coming in from outside in relation to those investments? Are they going to become more risky or less risky based on Trump's actions and policies? And then how do I minimize my risk while maximizing my return with some underlying assumptions? Lower taxes, lower regulation, and that the economy doesn't improve immediately, but starts improving at least by the end of the 4-year term.
Yeah. Do you want to go through and start breaking down each one of the variables that you're considering, the things that he's going to implement, and how that's going to affect real estate? And then obviously why you're selling because of it, and your strategy to obviously maximize profits as an investor.
100%. The short-term pain is, and you can see it in the treasuries, the 10-year treasury is up. Why? Most likely because of the tariffs and some of his other policies, and also potential future spending. The short-term pain is also in relation to the economy was already cracking, unemployment is rising, GDP was slowing down, the government spending too much money like a bunch of drunken sailors. What we do know, though, and this is where the gain starts to happen, Trump is about deregulation. So think about this. Where did Trump make all of his money?
Real estate.
Real estate. And what was he specifically, though, in real estate?
Buildings, multifamily, apartments, like
casinos. Yeah. Trump was a land developer. So if someone gets into office and they were given money by, their constituents, and we know their primary income is real estate and land development, where should you then go bet your own money?
Oh, where they are most competent, and where
they're most competent, where they're going to line their own pocketbook the most. So this is a good old example of follow the freaking money. So we're going to follow the money, and we're going to simply mirror and match what he's doing. I believe the deregulation could lead to faster land development, faster permits, and possibly even cheaper ones, because it's been said that up to 40% of the cost of a home in some cities is just in regards to regulation. The next item on the list is infrastructure. I think the Inflation Reduction Act, Biden's crown jewel, which should have been called the Inflation Creation Act, is going to immediately get gutted. It's DOA. He shows up, he guts that. We lose credits for solar, for EVs. We lose some of the clean air regulations. We see cutting and funding for some of the transportation stuff, and we see that really pushed into manufacturing, really pushed into energy, oil specifically. So think about it like this. If you're in parts of Texas or parts of Wyoming that are heavy oil areas, they're going to benefit from this. I want to be buying real estate and investing around that. I may even want to be making some investments in oil and natural gas right now. And then manufacturing is going to benefit. And manufacturing is going to benefit specifically in the Rust Belt, in the red states where a lot of the manufacturing happens. And then also the manufacturing on the I-5 corridor like we have here in the Seattle Metro, on all interstates, near the borders, near the ports, okay? And so that's going to help, which is going to really boost warehouse. There's going to be massive demand for warehouse, but that demand there and those jobs create demand for affordable housing, for small starter homes, and for multifamily. The negative, the con on this whole one is the tariffs. The tariffs basically show up almost like a tax on the consumer, because if we're going to charge China or another country more to bring the good into the United States, the consumer ultimately pays that. It goes in the U.S.'s pocketbook, and then they go spend it somewhere else. One, the consumer will only spend so much more, and then that'll help boost the manufacturing at home. Two, it may make it so countries like China stop buying our treasury bills, which keeps rates higher for longer. So we have to be thinking about this. How can I, in a higher for longer interest rate environment, capitalize on that? And what should I be doing today. Last item on the list is the tax benefits. We believe that because Trump was able to get the CARES Act to go through before, he's going to bring back bonus depreciation, which significantly helped commercial real estate during the last cycle. They believe it was as much as a 15% lift somewhere around 2020 because of that. And then the opportunity zones. Let's ignore opportunity zones for a second. Let's look at the bonus depreciation. Bonus depreciation is where you get to take a large chunk of the depreciation up front and take a big write-off. For high net worth individuals, for high income earners, W-2 income earners, for business owners, they need those deductions. So they go buy more commercial real estate. So now it comes down to, what are we doing today? We're selling properties out of state to bring them home. We're getting rid of land that we have right now and selling it off to builders to generate cash now so that we have more room for more short-term, mid-term, and long-term projects in our pipeline, specifically in land. You're going to keep hearing this, land, land, land. Why? Trump is a land developer. We're going deeper into land. Next, with our rental properties, we're going to be selling our underperforming properties or our non-performing properties in order to scale them up. 1, to generate cash, 2, to reposition them. I want our listeners thinking right now, while debt is expensive, should I be repositioning my assets? We can go through an exercise with you to figure out how you should reposition your assets. But if you're starting to get equity and you're starting to get the debt paid down and your cash on cash return is going down and your return on equity is going down, it might be time to scale. And the math is kind of simple. I have an example of it right here. If you were to buy a multifamily property that had a net operating income of $100,000 and it was roughly a 5.5 cap today, and we know that cap rates shot up approximately 1.5%. A cap rate is the net operating income divided by the purchase price. A property that makes $100,000 at a 5.5 cap is worth $1.8 million. Well, if we get the bonus depreciation and rates stay a little higher, and then rents come up, and then rates start to come down, and so cap rates kind of naturally settle back down. And we're just making this up as an example. And they go from 5.5 to 4.5. And the net operating income went up to $105,000. That building would now be worth $2.3 million, or over $500,000 more in a 2-year run, by rates simply coming down, rents coming up slightly, cap rates going down because of the rates and because of bonus depreciation. I think multifamily is that play for the scaling of your portfolio today. You should really be looking at that. Other commercial stuff, warehouse, gonna be great because of the manufacturing. So we went from what we're selling to what we're scaling. Now let's start to look into the future of kind of this 4-year plan and this idea of minimize risk, maximize return. We have not done a lot of spinning our land pipeline quickly. We'll be looking more at spinning our land pipeline quickly. And what I mean by that is bringing more deals in by, hiring more people, doing more marketing, doing more outreach, and then immediately getting rid of those deals, wholesaling those deals, doing some type of entitlement, making a little bit of money, and then only a small percentage taking all the way through. Why? Then we're generating more short-term cash and mid-term cash, which fills the bucket because we're going through the pain. And during the pain, opportunities pop up. And so an opportunity just popped up for us to grab a piece of land, owner financing. In the rescaling of our portfolio, we sold an underperforming split right over here. We were losing $260 a month on it. We bought a property that was going into foreclosure. We're wrapping the mortgage. So we paid to get it out of foreclosure. We're paying $40,000 to fix it. That property is going to make about $500 a month. And then we bought another piece of land. All this happened in a 1031. and we're going to put 3 units on it. So scaling, underperforming, brand new asset, losing money, into a rehabbed asset, making $500 a month, and a piece of land that's going to hold 3 units with owner financing for the difference there, because we had the cash, because we were ready for the opportunity, because we've started looking into the future.
Because you've been selling off those assets that you didn't think would have the same upside.
Bingo. What happens in real estate investing is people get comfortable and they look around and they fall in love and they're like, I'm so in love with you, house. You're the best house ever. Stop falling in love. Fall in love with your goals. Fall in love with a long-term plan. Fall in love with creating generational wealth and a legacy for your family. Don't get comfortable with one property. I talked to an investor today. I told him before he needed to sell his rental. And I told him we just kind of bumped into each other. And I go, you really need to sell that. And how much do you owe on it? He goes, $79,000. How much equity you got? He goes, probably $460,000. I go, so we could sell this, let's call it a $650,000 home. We could sell a $650,000 home that you barely owe anything on. And we could go buy literally somewhere between a $1.6 to a $2 million asset, probably get the same or better cash flow, get a higher level of depreciation, get more appreciation, more debt pay down. And over the next 10 years, brother, and I said this to him, and I said, over the next 10 years, brother, which one's going to put you in a better position? He goes, I'm just scared. Minimize the risk then. Okay. Maybe he doesn't go that far. But what I'm saying is right now is the time to scale and reposition, even though debt is high, because of this cap rate example I showed you. Because we know Trump is pro-real estate. We know he's going to try to line his own pocketbook. We know he's creating tax benefits for real estate. We know the Federal Reserve has already started lowering rates. So all the signs are pointing towards go, but we still have some inflation. We still have high interest rates, and the economy is still not fixed. So there's headwinds that we have to fight against. We're bringing in 10 projects. Out of the 10 projects we bring in, only one we're going to build to hold. Normally, we were trying to do that with probably 30%, so 3. One of them, we are going to grab our homies and our investors and hold it with them. The other 8, we're going to get rid of faster for those buckets. 5 of them are quick. We're talking anywhere between 30 days to 90 days, max 6 months. The next 2, we're going to be in that 6 month to year and a half range of working on them. But we're tightening up that cycle to minimize the risk and then maximize the return, because I believe, just like you can see a lot of the economy believes, we're long-term bullish on the U.S. economy right now. Otherwise, why would the stock market, crypto, and all these other things be just ripping? We're going to focus on wholesaling more land, listing more land, being the buyer broker on more land. See, what's interesting, even when we're buying land for our investors, we just did 2 large multifamily pieces for a group of our investors that we've sold big multifamily sites to before. Every time we do another one for someone else, we learn something that helps us personally, helps our investors. So we want to keep that skill really sharp. And then also it keeps you tied into the data, tied into the market, tied into the brokers that have the good deals. We're going to be looking at changing the zoning of things. This is a massive opportunity right now. So we have a piece of property in a city that you could probably get 10 units on right now. We submitted it for a rezone. That rezone is going to take it to probably 40 units. That's a 4x increase. And I was blessed yesterday to be able to speak on a panel. I was invited to talk about real estate investing and land development and the future use here in the Seattle Metro. And guess who's sitting next to me? The woman who runs this planning department. Very casually, I said, hey, did you see our rezone application? What do you think she said?
Yes.
Yeah. And because you're face to face with the person, I said, hey, what did you think about it? She said, oh, we're going to support it. The city's going to support it. So I'm getting a thumbs up. That's creating additional value, which is minimizing my risk, which means if I had to sell it, I could dump it and still get a higher value, even if I'm not all the way done, even if I'm partially done with it. So one, we're going to be looking for density. That's through rezoning, through land use, and through taking our current properties and figuring out how to add more units to them. In Washington specifically, we're going to be looking at these middle housing bills, at these DADU bills, things that are allowing additional density. I know Washington State's not the only state. The U.S. is in a housing crisis, so we're seeing a lot of density, a lot of new zoning things pop up. For us here in the Seattle Metro, we are behind on housing, approximately 4 years. And unfortunately, permit and development applications are down here, and they're down everywhere across the country. How many units do you think that we're down? And it's tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of units.
I'm going to say 70,000, only because I saw it in the notes.
Over the last 2 years, brother, we have sold 70,000 less homes in the Seattle Metro. Is that buyer still there?
Yeah.
So what I want our listeners, our subscribers, the people that are with us on this journey to hear, there's 70,000 people who want to buy a home in the Seattle Metro right now who haven't been able to purchase one over the last 2 years. That means they've been renting, and that means that massive demand is still there. If that's happening in the Seattle Metro, wouldn't you agree that's probably happening across the rest of the United States?
Yeah. And I know that one thing we haven't really talked about specifically is inventory in general, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
And so when I think about all that you just said and how you're shifting, you're kind of almost going all in.
I'm going deeper in one of my sectors.
Yeah, you're going super deeper into multifamily, right? Density type of kind of building, and then even land, because you're going to develop those type of properties or somebody else is, versus just doing like a residential. Because one of the things that we've kind of discussed is houses got too big.
Yes.
And when you think about Donald Trump and his history, they're skyscrapers. So they're the most dense of all property development. And that's what's interesting to me, because you, like, for the last 2 years, have been saying inventory is so low. That is influencing everything, no matter where the rates are, right? Like, hey, low inventory. Hey, the houses are going to just keep going up in price. It doesn't matter, right? Oh, like interest rates are too high. Guess what? People still need homes. And you combine low inventory with Trump being very pro build, like land development and just building of buildings. Yes. The logic is, hey, you guys should be positioned for what's going to benefit most, which probably will be not necessarily residential. Will still, but there's an opportunity there, but you're going to make, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is you're going to make way more money in ADUs, in multifamily apartments, and potentially like even like a skyscraper if you're in that game.
So I would just use the word density. Anything that is producing a smaller unit and more of those units, I think, is going to be your biggest opportunity. However, I do want you to flip this coin over for a second. We have three things that are just calling for smaller housing. Generation Z and the millennials are in first-time home buyer, and they're out there in droves looking for homes. So they need their starter homes. But let's not forget about the baby boomers. The baby boomers are at the retirement, and they want a small, cute little rambler. So there is also massive demand for these smaller housing units that people can take advantage of. What's interesting, too, because we love our data, is when you look at the price per square foot of some of these smaller units and what they sell for versus what it costs you to build them, there's massive opportunity there. You just have to be able to either get the density or get the land cheap enough. That's the conundrum when you try to build a starter home or pack a bunch of units on there. That's opportunity, though. So it's almost like the administration, because they've started so quick, so fast. I mean, they're just in it to win it. And they're Doge, Elon, Vivek, we're going to change government. So if the government is talking about deregulation and cutting red tape, we can kind of assume land development and new construction is going to get, it's not going to get 100% easier, but if it got 5% easier, 10% easier, that's massive opportunity.
Definitely going to have more support and more incentives.
More support and more incentives.
All right. Give us a TikTok version, connect the dots, and what's your last advice for the people listening?
The TikTok version is short-term pain, long-term gain. Reposition what you have today for at the end of the Trump administration term over the next 4 runs that you can capitalize on that. So take things that right now may seem risky or may seem too safe and convert that into something that's going to create the wave, the momentum, the win at the end of this 4 years. And you're going to get that ride as cap rates come down. You're going to get that ride as interest rates come down. You're going to get that ride as land development happens, as density happens, and grab your unfair share of that ride. And what we are doing specifically, and you've already heard it, is land. Okay, we're going to be deeper into land and deeper into multifamily and these ADU, DADU units. I think that strategy and scaling up your existing portfolio is what people really need to really seriously consider thinking about right now, because follow the money. Let's think about it. If you're in power, what are you going to do? You're going to make sure your kids make money and your business makes money. So follow the money. That's all we're doing, is simply following the money.
All right. So how can people find you?
You can reach us at resg.com or 425-249-0214. And as always, leave your questions below. We're happy to answer them and have more discussions about this.